Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This evening I'm going to be doing another movie review. This movie is a horror film from the United States, English language, released in the year 2019, directed by Lars Klevberg, and this film is called Child's Play. So Child's Play is a remake of the famous franchise that came before it. You've got a doll named Chucky who basically comes to life and starts killing people. So in this version, you got a young boy. He doesn't have a father figure in his life, and he has a single parent mother who is basically non-existent, and so he's all by himself. He doesn't have any friends, and he just spends his days inside on his phone. So the mother wants him to go out and meet new people, but he just doesn't want to do it, so she doesn't know how to solve this problem. That is until there is a state-of-the-art doll that is said to be a perfect companion piece for this type of child. And so the mother sees this on the ads, and she comes across a second-hand version of one of these dolls, and she gives it to her son as an early birthday present. Initially the son doesn't like it, but he soon develops a friendship because of the state-of-the-art capabilities that this doll has. So they start hanging out, they start doing a lot of pranks together, but then after a while the fun pranks start to turn into dangerous ones, and this is where the real Chucky is coming out, and doubts as to whether or not Chucky should be his companion start to creep into the mind of this boy, and before he knows it, those that are very close to him are in grave danger. So what that danger is and whether or not the boy can stop Chucky is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Child's Play. This was a really disappointing film, and I will say that I really wasn't expecting much, because it is exactly what I thought it would be. This is a movie that is just a cash grab. You know, with remakes, a lot of these cash grabs basically remaking very popular franchises that don't need to be remade, and basically the sole purpose of these movies existing is to cash in off the fan base, and that's unfortunately the case with Child's Play. I thought this is a very pedestrian film, and it's a movie that was incredibly forgettable because it lacks everything that made the original source material so good. Now, the original Child's Play, they weren't brilliant films, but they were incredibly fun films because of the incredibly fun villain. It's a slasher film, but it's a different kind of slasher film. It's a slasher film that makes you look at dolls in a very different light. And when I was very young, when I saw Chucky, I had dolls that basically look like Chucky, and when I was sleeping, I would picture in the cupboard that these dolls were coming to life, and that was part of the charm of the film, and that was the nostalgia of the film, is that it's basically a child's nightmare. And the fact that Chucky in those movies looked like an everyday doll made it even scarier, is because you couldn't disconnect yourself from it. And so Chucky had bags of personality. He was very vulgar, very psychotic, and he is just very, very funny. And so they were incredibly entertaining movies. In the entertainment, you could excuse all the negatives. So coming into the remake, I thought to myself, how is Lars Klevberg going to expand on this? And there are plenty of other films that need remakes, but they don't get the remakes because they weren't very popular. And so that is, you've got to have the intention to make a remake for all the right reasons, and I don't think Lars Klevberg really had the right reasons coming into this movie, because it lacks all the inspiration that it is basing itself on. And so to start off with, I thought the cinematography was very good, and that's unfortunately the only really good thing about this movie. The overall mood is very caricature, and the caricature mood really matches the overall story. It's this doll coming to life, and so it's not in the realms of reality. This is a different dimension, and the different dimension is intensified through the very vibrant colouring and the very off-putting sort of quirky characters. And the characters' interactions, I thought, were they were actually quite funny at the start of the film. I thought Aubrey Plaza does a good job as the mother, and I thought the boy's performance was relatively impressive as well. And so I thought, all right, well, the base is there to make a very good film, but unfortunately, where this movie was going to succeed or fail was Chucky itself. And so this is the draw card. Everyone is coming into Child's Play to see Chucky, and unfortunately when I saw some of the shots early on and the trailer, I thought Chucky didn't look very good. But maybe he possessed that personality that made him so great in the originals, but unfortunately not only does the look of Chucky fail, but also the personality is non-existent. Now, Mark Hamill voiced the Chucky, and I don't really know why they needed Mark Hamill, and the only conclusion I can come up with is as the same as to the reason why this movie exists. It's a cash grab. It's basically putting Mark Hamill's name on the poster in order for people to go and watch it, because this Chucky in this movie didn't have any personality. He didn't really have the one-liners that made him very funny. He didn't have the very funny laugh, and so everything that is a characteristic of Chucky is missing in this movie. And so when you strip down Chucky to just a 2D forgettable villain, you ask yourself, well, this is just a standard slasher. And unfortunately, you know, the bloody kills, they don't save the film, is because you need something extra, and that extra that was present in the originals was missing in the remake, and that's unfortunately the reason why it fails so miserably, is because it wasn't made for the right reasons, in my opinion. This was made just to actually have a cash grab, and that seems to be the trend in Hollywood horror, Americanized horror, is that they're running out of ideas. So what we're going to do, we're going to put a modern spin on a franchise that has been very successful. We know that people who follow the franchise are going to watch the remake, but because the director is not handling the remake with as much love as the originals did, it does become very evident. So it's a very mediocre film. I thought it outstayed its welcome. It's too long for its own good, and that's saying something because it's not even a very long film, but it just lacks all of the motivation that the original had. It lacks all of the charm, all of the black comedy. There are a few moments that made me chuckle here and there, but I just expected so much more from Chucky himself. And I thought that the look of Chucky was very CGI'd. It almost felt like it wasn't a doll at all. It was just another human being. The way he interacts with the boy, I thought, well, it is state-of-the-art technology, and it basically wipes away that every doll feel. And that every doll sort of appearance to Chucky in the original was the scariest part of the film. But in this movie, I just thought you can disconnect yourself, because it felt like it was a standard villain. It wasn't exactly a doll that was just killing people, and it just become a movie that you can put to the ever-growing pile of very forgettable American horror remakes. And so this one shouldn't have been touched, but unfortunately it was, and therefore it does become a bit of disappointment. So if you are a fan of the original franchise, stick with that one. Don't even bother with the remake, because you're really not missing anything. So overall, for Child's Play 2019, I'm going to give this film 1 star. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.